Breathe. Another dramatic night at Portman Road, another dramatic night in the promotion chase, and another 3 points for Ipswich Town, but only just, Stu. How are your nerves?
Yeah, I think we're recording this, what time is it, about 11 o'clock now, all quiet outside Portman Road. Heart rate's just about settled to normal now. That was a challenging night for Ipswich Town, a real test of character, and they've come through it. Test passed. It's not the test they've been used to sitting here at Portman Road, is it? We've been used to comfortable victory after comfortable victory on home soil. This is a flashback to earlier in the season. Tests against Fleetwood, tests against Lincoln, tests they didn't come through, but tonight they did. It was dramatic, it was loud, it was emotional, it was so nervous, but ultimately they've done it. And these are the kind of games that, it's a cliche, but if we're talking about other clubs, these are the games the promotion teams win these games. Plymouth won their game tonight. They scored a 97th minute winner to do it, and Ipswich had to dig extremely deep to match their result, and Sheffield Wednesday's result too. It's so vital that they did, and thanks to Nathan Broadhead, they've done it. Yeah, we've been used to seeing Ipswich put teams to the sword here at Portman Road of late. Obviously on Saturday, Charlton flew out the blocks, 2 goals inside quarter of an hour, 6-0 win. Maybe everyone was getting a little bit accustomed to that and thinking that was going to become the norm. Charlton were a form side, they were a top half side. If they can do that to Charlton, Port Vale with a caretaker manager, 3 players suspended, in poor form, we'll see them off, no problem. Wasn't quite like that, was it?
No, it wasn't. Ipswich had a chance inside 30 seconds here, and a flashed header wide from Fred Ladapo. And you'd hoped from that point that was kind of the setting the tone, the fast start we've become used to, settle into the groove. Ipswich know how to play that game, they know how to come out on top of that game, but it just didn't happen. The endeavour was there, all the ideas were there, but Port Vale were also there, and they were deep. They had a threat on the counter-attack, and they made it difficult for Town. It frustrated them, it meant things weren't quite connecting as we're used to. And they had a threat, Port Vale, and ultimately before half-time, before Ipswich could lay the true gloves on them, Port Vale scored a goal, and that sucked so much out of Portman Road. It was a shock to see it. We just haven't been used to it. But great goal.
Another big crowd here, 27,000 for a midweek game. And the atmosphere in that first half kind of cycled between encouragement and anxiety, I would say. When Ipswich were trying to get on the attack, things weren't coming off because there was just no space to operate in that final third. All credit to Port Vale, who defended really strongly. They were just enjoying the art of digging in, and they just decided, that they probably looked at the Charlton game on Saturday and thought it would be suicidal to come here and try and take Ipswich on. It was a 5-4-1, everyone behind the ball, narrow, compact, organised, spirited defending. And as you say, they had a threat on the counter as well, to be fair, and it wasn't a complete shock. There'd been a couple of little warning signs from them breaking away, and then they go and get a really good goal in stoppage time in the first half. Mal Benning took it brilliantly, didn't he?
Yeah, not an awful lot wrong with the Ipswich defending for it, digging out across. It was Harry Clark with a decent enough header away, but the problem was there was no one picking up Benning on the edge of the box. He's kind of taken, I think Chaplin's the nearest man to him, but he kind of touches it up in the air to himself, and then really good goal, finds the bottom corner. Nothing really Christian Walton can do about that, and you could sense the kind of the shock in the ground, not because of, like you say, not because of that it's come, because Port Vale showed signs that it could, but just because it's not in the script. It's not how Ipswich have been operating. They've not been conceding goals. So to be 1-0 down at half time was a new challenge. A challenge that hadn't been faced here for quite some time. So it needed something very, very good, and they kept going, to their credit. They kept going, they came out, and thankfully they scored one fairly early in that second half. Yeah,
Kieran McKenna at half time. Nathan Broadhead had said to us after the match that the manager wasn't too happy at half time. Kieran McKenna's told us in slightly more calmer terms that we had to make a few tactical adjustments. I wanted some more players on the final line. but mentally, you know, it was a balance between obviously pushing to get back into the game, but also not panicking and not getting sucked into the emotion of the crowd and the occasion. And they just, they stuck to their principles, and it was important that equaliser came relatively early, and it did in the 53rd minute, I think it was. Burns with another assist, and Broadhead, who just loves playing at Portman Road, took that really well. Good movement, good finish on the volley. Yeah,
half of that goal was in the movement, the other half was in the finish. But it was a move from Town that looked like so many of the others. It looked like it wasn't really going to go anywhere, because they were getting crowded out down the right side. And Burns, to his credit, changed the pace of that attack and changed the speed of Town's attack into the box, and it was a good one. That's a proper good goal. Get across your man, beat him to it, and also find a really good finish, good connection. And from that point on, you thought Ipswich would probably go on and win it, probably, but it doesn't always work like that. And there were moments where you're kind of wondering, actually, if Port Vale got something else here. It wasn't.
Yeah, there was that slight fear. By then, Ipswich were on top, the crowd livened the crowd up. They were getting more chances than they did in the first half. But in pushing for the winner, might they leave the back door open a little bit? Port Vale had the odd corner that you started to think, oh, don't go and score again, because that would completely flatten the atmosphere. But Ipswich were patient. We kept saying a couple of times the crowd got a little bit edgy, but there was still plenty of time on the clock. And the law of averages suggests that, you know, if you have that number of corners, that number of shots, one will go in. Of course, in the back of your minds is that Lincoln game from earlier in the season, where they did manage to defend that deep and see it out. But Ipswich have got, this is a different Ipswich Town team now to the one earlier in the season. Like you say, that those tests weren't passed earlier in the season. They're a different town now. They've got some different players in this team, most notably Nathan Broadhead, who was the coolest man in the stadium when the referee pointed to that spot in the 84th minute.
Yeah, how do you stay that calm with the best part of 30,000 people kind of looking at you needing to put a ball in the back of the net? And he did it perfectly. It was a really, really good penalty. Harry Clark won it. I think it was 2-3 stabs at putting a ball into the box, blocked away. The last one was just to come off Mal Benning's hand.
I think the first one came off a hand as well, to be honest. So I don't think there can be any complaints about that.
Yeah, but it came again. I think we've heard Kieran McKenna talk about fine margins and penalties not being given in games, and I think in those Fleetwood and Lincoln games we mentioned, there were penalties not given in those, and
the Cheltenham game as well.
The Cheltenham game. It came tonight. But it required the coolest of head, not least because of the amount of time he had to wait for it. Connor Chaplin was booked in the build-up to it for pushing someone to the ground who was trying to get to the penalty spot and rough things up, and it didn't need much more roughing up, did it? Because Nathan Broadhead kind of explained the state of the spot, which certainly wouldn't have helped things. And it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln. These games are blending into one. Port Vale had been time wasting from very early on. Their goalkeeper was booked in the first half. Eventually, after several warnings, was booked. So there was a bit of frustration with that. And as Kieran McKenna said, that, you know, there was time wasting, delaying tactics over the penalty. One of their players sat down with cramp, inverted commas, on the edge of the box. Then Chaplin getting frustrated. Then the referee was making sure Nathan Broadhead had placed it correctly around the penalty spot. I think that was so scuffed up that the referee had to sort of tell him what the rules were as to where he could place it. So a long delay, and you always worry about those when there's a long delay over a pressure penalty. And but thankfully Nathan Broadhead sort of kept his calm, and that, as you say, that was right in the side netting. Hell of a penalty under pressure.
He's a man for the moment, isn't he? He's obviously had his Wales debut recently, scoring in stoppage time away in Croatia there. It's quite good to have men for the moment, men that can handle the pressure. That young men that can handle that. Very impressive.
All of his goals in an Ipswich shirt, all 6 of them have come here at Portman Road. 6 goals in 8 starts at Portman Road.
It's all right
for him, which is quite the impact, isn't it? So a night where Ipswich Town have really had to dig deep to get another win. 15 unbeaten now, 7 straight home wins here, 10 wins out of the last 11. And they needed that tonight because, as you say, Plymouth have got a late come from behind win themselves. Yeah. Sheffield Wednesday won a tricky game at Bristol Rovers. Barnsley were the only team to drop points. They drew at Lincoln tonight. So it's looking now like that 4-way fight for the top 2 might be more of a 3-way fight now, possibly.
Possibly, yeah. Obviously, Barnsley still in the mix with Ipswich because they have to go there. So Barnsley will be a factor in Ipswich's season one way or another. Difficult for them to make the top 2 from here, but we can't ignore Barnsley because we have to go there with Ipswich. But yeah, this is 4 more games now. That's not very many games. That's a real sprint for the line.
And having outlined how many Ipswich wins there's been of late, Ipswich need to win 3 of these final 4 to virtually guarantee promotion because of that goal difference factor that they've got. 2 wins, 2 draws will do the job as well. But of course the next 2 is Peterborough away and then Barnsley away. 3 of the final 4 are away from home. You could argue after the challenge of tonight that actually playing someone like Peterborough, who are a wide open attacking team, suits Ipswich better. Ditto Barnsley as well. So yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but Ipswich have gone to Derby and Bolton and enjoyed those games and got big wins on the road. So they'll be going to London Road and Oakwell full of confidence, you would have thought. It's getting exciting. We'll let our nerves and settle tonight, and we'll start building up to the next of all these cup finals. I'm going to use the cliche, 4 cup finals to go.